Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I'm your host, Stephen Pinecker, and I'm very excited to have a homie who's a previous guest. I refer to him as the Stephen Pinecker of Northern Ireland. It's Mormonism with the Murph. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. I'm grateful to be back, Steve. Excited to be here.
And I'm very excited about you and the progress of your channel. You recently, just not that long ago, crossed over 1,000 subscribers threshold. So now you are a monetized
Yeah.
channel. What was that like hitting 1,000 subscribers, dude?
Oh, yeah. It was a big milestone. Obviously, it's whenever you first start a YouTube channel, it's kind of the goal. You want to try to reach 1,000, but it seems almost like, is this really going to happen? So it was surreal, and it was a really happy day. It was right before my birthday. I remember like I set this goal a couple of months ago. Like I'd love to hit 1,000 subscribers before my birthday. So it was really good. I was really happy, and yeah, it's slowly been growing, but now I'm nearly hitting 1,500 subscribers. So yeah, the growth has been really cool.
Yeah, I'm really I'm really excited about you. And this is the thing, with my channel is it really meant a lot to me when I had like 20 something subscribers and Rick Bennett agreed to come on my program and he was my first interview. This Gospel Tangents.
Yeah,
This guy's like this is a big deal.
yeah, it's a big channel.
Yeah. And I was always grateful for Rick Bennett to do that to me, to help me out, get me started. And
Yeah,
and so I was like immediately, not long after I started my channel and got going, I was like, I want to help other people too. So if I saw somebody that I was like, I started seeing you coming in my feed, I was kind of watching your stuff. I was like, okay, this guy's an interesting guy. He's a faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who kind of had a faith crisis, and now he's putting things back together, and he's kind of using this as your faith journey, just like my channel's. I'm kind of documenting
yeah,
my faith journey. You're kind of documenting your faith journey on your channel. What do you say to that?
yeah. I think I am, and I think it's me sort of confronting and navigating and trying to process some of the difficult issues and topics in church history or things with the church's truth claims. And yeah, I'm kind of processing things. I'm still going through a faith journey, but I'm trying to do it in sort of a fair, balanced, neutral way. And I think people have appreciated the approach overall. There's extremists on both sides who don't like what I'm doing. But I think now I'm starting to find more of an audience and sort of like a niche who are appreciating a more neutral approach. Not that I think there's anything wrong with apologetics or critics. I think they're important voices. I like hearing different perspectives, but I want to, similar to yourself or like Rick Bennett, I want to be more of a neutral sort of balanced way and don't want to overly influence people. And I'm sort of at the point where I've listened to a lot of what critics have to say, and it's really I just want to look at the evidence, look at the arguments, look at the apologetics, and let people sort of draw their own conclusions and almost be kind of neutral as I'm going through it. So it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
So I have a question for you. I have had, now you got to understand, like I talk to church employees, I talk to bunches of people from all different walks of life, and I actually have gotten this question more than once. And what it is they're like, Steve, how? Because remember, I was an atheist for a long time, right? And so I deconstructed
That's right.
scriptures, I deconstructed God, and all this kind of stuff, and I found my way back into faith. And I've had people reach out to me who go to me and say, how is it that you could still have faith, still be a believer, knowing everything that you know? And the question,
Yes, I've gotten the same question.
so I pose the same question to you.
Well, that's a good question. For me, and this is what I acknowledge primarily, it is my spiritual experiences first and foremost. Even even whenever I was out of the church and I was exploring apologetics and even some evidences that faithful scholars might use to support, Joseph Smith of the Book of Mormon, I became a little bit more open-minded. I maybe didn't see it as this is 100% clear, it's all not true, but it still wouldn't have persuaded me. So it was primarily spiritual experiences, feeling like I had an encounter or an answer from God. And that's primarily what has kept my faith going, why I believe. But it's also, I think, since I've been doing this, I still have some doubts. There's still some unbelief. There's still some issues that I'm navigating my way through. There's some issues which have become smaller with more research. and exploring it, which has been a good thing. But primarily, it would be my spiritual experiences, which are subjective, and I acknowledge that I don't know with certainty that that was God giving me those answers. I've sort of chosen to believe, and that's how I've interpreted them. But I'm trying to reconcile the spiritual and the intellectual. But so that's kind of why I'm doing my channel. I'm not just being like, oh, I feel like I've had a spiritual experience. I'm just going to go with that. I still feel like, no, I need to confront all the intellectual things as well. But yeah, it's primarily the spiritual experiences. But I think, other things as well, with research and exploring apologetics, some things have helped me at times, things to do with maybe the witnesses or looking at the text of the Book of Mormon or parallels between like the Book of Enoch and like the the Dead Sea Scrolls. I can't even remember, but like we things like that. Where I was like, oh, okay, there's maybe some plausibility to this.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting because I got I used to be this way. I got this is a comment somebody posted on a post that I was tagged in for an interview. And it says, the older I get, the less respect I have for religious people. The religious are willing to believe in things for which there is no evidence. It's akin to an adult believing in Santa Claus. How much respect
Mm.
do you have for a 30-year-old or older who still believes in an old man and with elves and living in the North Pole, spent all year making presents, and then in one night distributed them worldwide? That is the same respect deserved by someone who believes in God, regardless of how liberal all of his other views may be. Now, the old Steve Pinegar would have probably written that not that long ago. But I also think,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, this guy, he's kind of I don't know, he's one of those people just kind of does these drive-by.
Yeah,
Both,
it's kind of a flippant statement, but at the same time, I can understand. Like you hear a lot of critics say, like there's just as much evidence for God as there is like a flying spaghetti monster
yeah,
in outer space, and you don't have any evidence that he doesn't exist.
right.
And I think probably similar for you, but for me, I think primarily the reason I believe in God is because I feel like I've had answers to prayer and like experiences where it seems like it was God interacting with me or his hand was there, and it's almost like it's worth believing in him for me because of those experiences. Maybe if I hadn't had some of those experiences, I might feel the same. I don't know if it's similar for you.
I think that our stories are very similar because I would say that I did not. I tell people, I said I read myself out of Christianity, literally read myself
Yeah,
by doing study, and and I can say I did not read myself back into Christianity. I
no,
I would say that I know the stories, I know the whole thing, the warts and all. I've had personal experiences with many, many megachurch ministers and televangelists, and so I know how the sausage is made. I know I've seen the ugly side of Christianity.
yeah, yeah,
And when I see comments from somebody like this, they don't quite get it. And the reason why they don't get it is because I could probably agree with 90% of the criticisms he would make about religion. And I would be in his corner and say, yes, I agree. I would say that much of the time, if there's a debate between a Christian apologist and an atheist, and it's a panel, odds are I'm probably on the atheist panel debating against the Christian apologist because I do think that there's a lot of Christian apologetics that to me is just garbage. Okay. So
yeah. Their arguments are stronger.
yeah,
It seems more reasonable. No, I would be similar if whenever I've listened to critics and apologists, like Jim Bennett and John Dillon or Bill Reel going at it, and I would definitely find it more reasonable or logical the arguments that the critics are making most of
yes,
the time.
absolutely. And so that's part of our humanity is the ability to reason, right? But also we
Yeah,
have to keep in mind is that there is the spirituality of us as well. See, we are hardwired to be spiritual. Whether this happened
yeah,
through some evolutionary, it gave us an evolutionary advantage, perhaps, believing in something bigger than oneself, looking out
sure.
for others in your community, being selfish as opposed to being selfish, all
That
these
morality.
attributes, yeah, morality. One could argue that, but this is whether you are fully naturalistic or believe in the supernatural. This is the thing: if you cut yourself off from your spiritual side, you're cutting yourself off from your humanity. So when I see a guy like this who's obviously hurting, who's obviously angry with what religion did to him, which I totally get it,
Yeah,
then to
yeah,
be flippant like that, because I'm like, wait a second, dude. First of all, religion ain't going anywhere. It's going to always be with us. Christianity ain't going nowhere, right? It's always going to be with us. So the question I pose to somebody like this is, would you rather that I be an outside atheist and just be another atheist that no Christian's going to listen to? Or would you rather have people like us who are reasonable, understand the arguments, know the history, have a nuanced view, but are believers?
Yeah.
Then we can engage those ugly things, some of the ugly things about Christianity and religion in general, and call it out as Christians and believers. I don't get why somebody has to be so black and white and you're thinking, see, that person, they're a fundamentalist. They think like
I think like I've had comments from people with my channel that there's so much polarization, with religion, between, believers and non-believers, critics and apologists, be it Christianity, or even, between Christians and Mormons. I've been in Facebook groups where it's like Christians versus Mormons or atheists versus Christians, and then, ex-Mormons versus Mormons. And there's so much polarization, and a lot of the time people want you to pick a side. What side are you on? And although people can admire you having sort of a neutral approach and trying to be balanced and trying to be fair, people often want you to almost join their side.
right.
And
And if
I think
anybody
that's something.
requires that I join a side, not interested. Not
Yeah,
interested.
it's funny. I had a recent comment under a video, and this kind of made me laugh. I'm not saying to belittle the person, but she wrote at the end of my video, like, would you just give your opinion? Which side did he make it all up or not? And I've acknowledged in other videos that I'm a believer, and I'm trying to do a fair and objective analysis. But usually in my videos, I try to present the different interpretations. Critics would probably view the history or the evidence this way. These are some apologetic responses, and I try to, in almost like a robotic way, without trying to dissuade people, how you must conclude it. I'll often say you draw your own conclusions. And sometimes people don't like it if I'm too neutral, but I kind of feel like, why should my beliefs or the way I interpret it, why should that matter? As long as I'm presenting it in a fair, balanced way, as long as I'm being intellectually honest, why do I have to always state where I come down on an issue? Because I think that, and it's an issue I've had with certain content creators on either side, is I feel like they can very heavily influence their listeners, that the only reasonable or logical conclusion is this, is mine. And that's something I try to avoid. I think as long as we're trying to be fair and present the information in a respectful way, I think why does it have to matter what side you're on? I think people care a lot about that.
It's interesting because it makes me think. Well, first of all, let me just say a couple things.
Oh yeah.
Carrie Sheets, the Backyard Professor, and I have been having conversations. Of course, I was on the Backyard Professor Live recently, and him and I have been engaging. He went to the movie screening, The Return of Elder Pingree, sitting right in the front row, came all the way from Idaho to watch it, and we taped something at the movie theater. It was really great. And he and I are having these conversations because guess what? Carrie Sheets for a long time, well, not as long as me. Actually, I was an atheist much longer than the Backyard Professor was. But Backyard Professor went through an atheist phase. Well, guess what? He no longer considers himself an atheist. And he's open to the idea of God and the spiritual. And you know what? Carrie Sheets is at peace. He actually is going through a healing process. He admitted that to me on camera, where he's like, yeah, I feel like I'm going through a healing process. My wife even mentioned it to me, that she can see a change in me. And this is a positive thing. So there are people who are going to occupy the angry ex-Mormon, ex-Christian, ex-evangelical space for the rest of their lives. And I have to tell you, for your own well-being, I would say you got to be there for a while, but don't stay there, because that's not a healthy place either, man. And Carrie recognized that, and it affected him. So now I go and I'll just tell this. Before we taped our interview with Jonathan Neville the day before, we went on a Zoom call, I said, hey guys, can I do a closing prayer? And we prayed. So you had a faithful Mormon, an ex-Mormon, and an evangelical coming together in prayer. And when I was done with the prayer, they were both very grateful. They thought that was a nice prayer, a really cool thing that we did. And so I'd much rather it be like that, man. Is that we can be respectful of each other's beliefs. And we can also realize that, see, this guy, and again, I'm not really bothered by what he wrote, but I just think it's just a perfect example of somebody who can't see even the utility of belief. And I understand, but you're kind of blinded because of probably a lot of bad things that happened to you because of your religious abuse or whatever it was. I get it, but man, you got to move on at some point too.
Yeah. What I think as well is like whenever I can look back, I remember when I first went through my faith crisis, whenever I first left, it was almost I would compare it to a bad breakup where you feel completely betrayed. You feel like the person is not who you thought they were. And so I was like, I'm away from that cult, and all you can see is everything bad about religion or everything bad and harmful about the church. And I think it's important to talk about the issues in church history or the issues with the church. I think those are important things. I think discussion and dialogue and people bringing up their concerns, I think that's important, and we don't see it much in in a church context, but try and do it in a way that's respectful and still seeing the good as well, still seeing how that blesses people's lives and the beauty and goodness in other religions. I would never mock or belittle, a Muslim or a Buddhist or, a Christian in their faith. And I think sometimes with ex-members, because they can feel very hurt, a lot of pain, they almost want to lash out. I'd seen TikTok videos of people going around in garments and making fun of the temple ceremony. And even if you don't believe it's of God, or even if you think there's things which you find disturbing about it, because your pain, I don't think justifies you in mocking a religion's rituals and sacred ordinances, because that could also be hurting a believer. That could be hurting a family or a friend who holds those things as sacred and meaningful to them. I don't think that's not being kind or considerate or respectful to those people. And even though you might feel some frustration, some resentment, I think you need to think of those other people as well, not wanting to hurt them or belittle their faith.
A few weeks ago, there was a Thrive event, and actually Rebecca Biblioteca was the MC for it. Okay. And so awesome to see the rise of the person nobody knew who Rebecca was.
She's awesome.
She
She's
is
really
awesome.
good. Like I've listened to a couple of your episodes with Rebecca, and she's a great co-host. She's just very friendly, very warm with the guests. Yeah, I think no matter who you have on, she'll treat them really well.
Yeah,
She's a great ad.
she's just been a real asset, and I'm very proud of discovering her. And then now she's said, you helped me find my voice by coming on my program. So I'm
Yeah,
so
she's
happy
got a
about that.
podcast, Mormonish.
Yeah,
I
she's got
think.
and that's I think 600 subscribers just hit yesterday, so they're growing nice
Oh,
too. So
that's
I'm
good.
really happy for her. And but she was emceeing this event for Thrive. And it was really good. They had hundreds of people there. It was people were having fun. They were laughing and joking. And then Stephen Hassan, or whatever his name is, he's a pretty famous person. He was on Mormon Stories. He
The
was
cult expert.
the cult sexter, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this guy that gets up and starts talking, and he is talking about tithing and how tithing helped him, and he's a true blue Mormon. And then he goes on this anti-LGBTQ rant and disrupts the entire meeting.
Oh,
Finally, they actually had to basically escort him out of the room. And I go back to what you were saying about sacred spaces and making fun of people's religious rituals and disrupting them. So for people
yeah.
who are post-Mormon, Thrive is their sacred space. And
Yeah.
this TBM violated their sacred space. Now, when the evangelicals are outside with their blowhorns and making fun of people during general conference or the grand opening of a temple, you're in one sense violating a sacred space. When LGBTQ, sorry,
You're okay.
when LGBTQ activists disrupt Christian church services, they're violating a sacred space. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that we all need to just say, folks, enough with that. That's nonsense. Let people have their place, their safe space, their sacred space. And whether
Yeah.
you agree or disagree with what's being talked about, let them have their place. And so when this person, this member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, disrupted a Thrive event, I feel like that's wrong. And
Yeah. I
like,
agree.
but also when it's done on the other side, it's also wrong too. What do you say to that? And I'm sorry,
No,
I forgot to put my foot
I
on
totally
the.
agree with you, and I'm gonna mention President Nelson's the
Yes.
talk he gave at General Conference. I'm doing a video on it. It may be released before this one, but it was all about overcoming contention through peace and love, and it was just a really simple message. And I feel like it was one that, whether or not you believe President Nelson's prophet of God or a good religious leader or just an old man in a suit, like I feel like that is the message that Jesus would want us all to apply, and just to be civil, respectful, kind to each other, even if we disagree, to not attack people, to not malign them, to not try to hurt them or personally go after them because they have a different belief or they disagree with you on a social issue or a religious belief. And I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen as well, that both sides can be guilty of it. I've seen apologists who have personally gone after critics, and they've made it a real polemic thing, like us versus them, almost seeing them as like they're enemies, they're traitors, they're apostates, and labeling them as, apostates. They've been deceived, they're antichrist even. And I feel like even if they have, like, we don't know people's motives, we don't know their character. I think we should at least give people the benefit of the doubt. And Jesus said, judge not that you be not judged. It's not our place to judge and condemn people. I feel like he would want us to be compassionate. Doesn't mean we're going to agree with people. I think we need to get used to having conversations where we may disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable, that we can be kind, we can be understanding, we can listen, and try. And I think that's something that you've done really well on your podcast, is you bring in so many different voices of the restoration, so many different people. And I know there's no way that you could agree with them all because there's so many different voices, but you listen, you let them share their views, you're respectful, you're open-minded. You don't belittle, and you might push back. And I think that's good, a bit of pushback, asking tough questions, but in a respectful and gentle way. I feel like that's what Jesus would want us to do if you're a Christian. I think it's just what being a good human being is, just being respectful, being tolerant, not just trying to attack or necessarily try to defeat the person in an argument. And I think I've seen people who are very heavy on both sides, who are very much about, what side are you on, us versus them, care more about attacking and defeating the other person. And it doesn't build bridges, and you don't understand the other person. And yeah, I think that's a really important thing that he brought up in his talk. To me, it seemed inspired. It seemed needed, and especially in this space, I think, in the Mormon community between critics and apologists, I wish there could be more dialogue, more middle ground, more discussion, and just understanding and empathy towards people's different perspectives, conclusions, that sort of thing. I don't know if you
Well, it's so fun.
agree or resonate with that.
I don't know if you watched the Backyards Professor's response to President Nelson's talk, but
I
he said,
did.
and that's really good. Yeah.
It was
And
nice because I was going to watch it and I was like, because I really enjoyed President Nelson's talk, and I was like, oh no, I was like, I hope he's not going to just, bash on him, because I think you should give credit where credit is due. And I think he did. And I thought it was really, I was like, kudos to you, Carrie, for the
yeah,
kind words.
and that's the funny thing is I'm talking to Carrie on the phone yesterday, and he goes to me, and we were talking about this Mormon apologist,
Yeah.
and it's somebody we both know. And he goes and he's like, man, here President Nelson comes up with how we need to just be more respectful and not do polemics and name calling and all this kind of stuff. And this person
Yeah.
goes, he said, you wouldn't believe the nasty post this person wrote just days after President Nelson's admonition. So these so-called apologists are not following the prophet.
No.
They'd rather attack and bash and make fun and lie. And it's like, man, we got it. I don't know what to do with that.
No.
You know what? This is the thing. There's Christian apologists on my side that do the exact same thing. And they
And
had the ends justifies the means mentality.
yes.
And
Yeah.
that's not right. That ain't Christian, dude.
It's not. It's not. And it's even worse for members of the church because, you're a follower of Jesus Christ. You should be following his teachings. And if you believe that we're all sort of children of God, like his sons and daughters, then you shouldn't just be judging them and condemning them. And I feel like it's not right. And especially because that could be your family member, that could be your friend, and it just creates more division and contention. And like I don't think, like, it happens and it's really sad, but if people could be more civil and understanding and respectful, I think there shouldn't be relationships ending because one person leaves the church and one
Right.
person continues as a believer. And I think, I'm sure that you're the same. I've met some really thoughtful, either former Mormons or critics who are really respectful, who are very thoughtful, who are not polarizing in any way. And I like Anthony Miller is one who I'm doing an interview with, and just such a gentle, loving guy. He's in a mixed faith marriage, and while he's come to his conclusion, he no longer believes it's true. He's a great guy. I admire him so much and empathize and resonate so much with his story and admire with what he's doing, because I don't see him as someone who's trying to tear down. He's trying to build, healing and growth after, losing faith, because that's going to happen. That's going to happen to people, and we need to be more caring and supportive to those people. It's going to keep happening.
Yeah, that's very true. And Anthony is a good dude. He's been on my show. Him and I, he came to my very first meetup I ever had in Utah.
Oh yeah, and he's
Just
been so supportive of my channel, liking, commenting,
yeah.
even though that we might come to different conclusions. I think he probably appreciates what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do it in an intellectually honest way.
Yep.
And I hope that our interview could also be a model of discussion and dialogue where you may not come to the same conclusions, but you can try to hear the other person and their perspectives.
So one of the things that's very interesting is, for those of you who've seen my Mormon Stories episodes, the 5-part epic series, and I waited to the very end to give the big reveal about,
Yes, yeah.
okay, about myself, and everything. And I deliberately did that because I knew if I had come out of the closet at the beginning of the episode of the series, everybody would have been viewing me through a particular prism.
Yeah, through a certain lens.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they would say, I had somebody comment on that video saying, I'm Church of Christ. Those are Protestant restorationists, and they're pretty conservative. I'm Church of Christ, and I didn't think it was possible to be a Christian and gay at the same time, but Stephen changed my mind. That person,
Yeah.
if I had said it at the beginning, would have probably stopped watching. Instead, they watched through the whole thing, and their world was turned upside down. I had Christians, Mormons, atheists tell me that their world was turned upside down by those interviews. And so that's the thing, is that, and I was on a Zoom call, and I said, I stay out of the politics and stay out of giving my opinions on a lot of things, because I said, if I give a particular opinion about the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms in our country, I said, if I give a particular opinion on that, people are going to assume then that these 30 other things, that checks off the boxes of 30 other things that I would believe in as well.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
may not necessarily be the case. And so
Yeah.
I think that's important, that the idea of, look, you can't be 100% neutral. Sometimes you're obviously,
No.
and if you had me on and I'd given you my views politically and stuff like that, how I see things in some ways, or
Yeah.
and I'm willing to do that. But I don't want my show itself to become a place where it comes with a particular bias. I try to be aware of any biases I have and try to minimize them as much as I can, but also make sure that if I have a view, I want to make sure that somebody with an opposing view or a different view or a more nuanced view would also come on my program to discuss it, because I wanted to have these are much, I think, much
And it
more
kind of challenges
yeah.
your view, your bias. And I think that's an important thing that we both share, is like our positions and our faith should be challenged as well. And I think it's important to hear the different voices. So I I don't have any animosity or bad feelings towards critics. One, I feel like I empathize with them. I can see the validity of their concerns and arguments they raise. I like listening to those podcasts, and I like listening to channels like Saints Unscripted, even Thoughtful Faith. And I may not agree with their approach and everything. But I like to incorporate these voices, your voice, gospel tangents, Mormon stories, and then I can sort of incorporate how I see it and make a more informed judgment, and then bringing people on who might challenge my view as well.
You know, it was so funny because I've had some of the leading critics of Mormonism have been on my program, right?
Yeah.
And I
You've
don't
had like, what, like RFM, John Blinn, Dan Vogel,
and
Sandra Tanner,
yeah, and you could say I mean,
Simon Southerton.
like Dan Vogel could be viewed as a critic, although I just think he's a great scholar. And
Oh, he's a great
others,
historian.
yeah,
I've had a couple of interviews with him, and he's, for being a critic, he's not super critical, and he's very respected,
yeah,
as a historian and scholar.
yeah, and that's the thing. So I
He
have
knows
all
his
these,
stuff.
yeah, so I have all these top scholars, some people who are critical, some people who are ex-Mormons, post-Mormons, whatever, what have you. And I don't hear any pushback from true blue Mormons. As a matter of fact, they're interested in hearing these people. And yet last year, when I posted my thumbnail, when I posted my video, and I had Jacob Hansen of Thoughtful Faith on, this
Yes.
little brother who's starting a YouTube channel to counter his older brother's channel,
Yeah,
right?
he's more of a critic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yet, because the fact that I had people, look, I only had one downvote. I think for months I had 0 downvotes on the interview because people who actually watched the interview loved the interview. Here I am helping launch his younger brother's channel. We're both helping him. The critic,
It was a great interview as
yeah,
well.
it
Like, I
was.
really enjoyed. It was nice seeing them two have just a nice
Yeah,
dialogue. It's almost like they laid down their weapons of
yeah,
war. They were able
yeah,
to just chat, like you're just chatting as guys, and
yeah.
it
But
was
this is
it
the
was
thing.
pretty
This is the
nice.
thing. I got attacked by progressives and exmos. How dare you give him a platform? Blah blah blah. They were attacking the thumbnail. So I had a lot of pushback for having Jacob on there by to
Yeah,
attack the thumbnail. But I had very little pushback in the comments section, or only one downvote after months. It finally got one downvote. So people who actually watched the interview thought it was great. But people who didn't watch the interview but saw the thumbnail, saw just saw his picture, they attacked me. They actually attacked me for giving this guy a platform. I'm like, I get all these critics of the church come on. The TBMs are fine with that. I get somebody that's right of center on my program, and you go bonkers. I'm like,
yeah.
they're
It's hypocritical.
fundamentalists. They're black
Yeah.
and white fundamentalist thinking. And so for those of you, I just want to say, don't and people, because people were attacking me. As a matter of fact, I think you defended me when that happened in one of the things.
Yeah, because I thought it was kind of unfair. I remember you said that he's sort of like a growing apologist, and some people
Yeah,
thought that was a misleading statement. And I sort of def defended you because I've had people really criticize me for certain posts, or like, and like sometimes people just like to criticize, and I was like,
yeah, and this is
just
the
give
thing.
Steve a break.
And then this is the thing. You guess what? Maybe I say he's a growing apologist, whatever the terminology I use. Guess what?
He's got
He's
a big channel, and
debating
he
when he's debating Apologia Studios and he's debating evangelical apologists. Guess what? In the eyes of evangelicals, he is. So
yeah.
because they look at him as a leading Mormon apologist because he's
Hmm.
debating some of the leading Christian apologists. That's where I came up with this. But again, watch the debate with Apologia Studios. He's engaging the evangelical world. Okay, maybe you're not aware of it, but I'm aware of it. So that's where I got that
Yeah.
term. But then
And you would say
Rick
his
Bennett,
content, his videos are apologetic and trying
yeah,
to defend the church and its position. So yeah, it just frustrated me when I saw people having a go at you because it was just totally unwarranted and unfair.
and Rick Bennett even said, "Why aren't you responding to these people?" And I said, "I don't respond to people who haven't watched the video. I'm sorry, but if you're going to be attacking my thumbnail and not watching the video, then I'm not going. I'm not. If you don't take the time to
Yeah,
watch the video, I ain't taking the time to respond to your comments because I feel they're
yeah,
ill-informed and they're bigoted, they're ignorant, and I think that all the qualities that you see of negativity of religion, I saw in those people criticizing me. That's I'm just telling you how
yes,
I saw it at the time. And so
yeah.
that was a real instructive thing for me to see that. And I'm glad I got to see that side
Hmm.
because then I realized, there's toxicity on both sides in many ways, and we got to fight
There is.
toxicity as well.
We do. I think it goes back to that. us versus them mentality and what side are you on, and people often want to just hear the voices that support whatever belief or where they're at, in what position they hold. I guess it's sort of confirmation bias. And I think your channel, I'm striving to do with my channels to present different voices, different perspectives, and so people can take them in. I think it's also a way that people can almost be more understanding of the different conclusions you can draw, be more respectful of each other, and a way to model that you don't have to hate each other. You don't have to be, even though you disagree. And I think Saints Unscripted have been great with that. Jeff McCullough and what he's doing, what you're doing. I think John Lynn and Patrick Mason had a great interview and dialogue. And it's like, let's put down our weapons of war. Yes, we can discuss our disagreements. We can ask the tough questions, but we can still be respectful and kind as we do it. And we want to try to, I think, build bridges. I'm just not for the divisiveness and contention there can be.
So like I said on Saints Unscripted, which by the way, everybody Saints Unscripted, love y'all, and got a lot of great feedback. Tons of people viewed your interview on Saints Unscripted as well. But one of the things I brought up is that 90%, probably 90% of the time I disagree with my guests.
Yeah.
Well, but yet we can still have a conversation, by golly. And we're capable of having that conversation. And I think these principles that I'm doing and what you're doing can be applied to the broader world. Why can't political conversations be like that? Why can't we, why does it have to be like we're in some kind of arena and we're like, we're Spartans fighting each other? It's just freaking crazy. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be a blood sport all the time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I recently did episodes with Michelle Stone, who has an interesting view that she doesn't believe polygamy is of God, or that Drew Smith was a polygamist. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to bring you on. We're going to talk about it. I disagree with you, and I asked her questions, pushing back, but I was like, I want you to share your reasons, and we'll have a conversation. And I think she really appreciated my approach. She really appreciated the questions I was asking her. But we had, I think, a respectful, good dialogue and discussion. And whenever I bring a guest on, I want them to be the center of the show, not me trying to defeat their arguments. And I even brought on Nemo, who's probably a controversial figure. He's a critic, and he's he opposes the church leaders, and you can't think of many more people who'd be more controversial against the church. But I brought him on, and he shared his views and perspectives, and I thought we had a productive conversation. And my goal wasn't to debate him, wasn't to fight him. I didn't go in seeing him as the enemy, or felt anger, resentment, or hostility. And I felt like we were able to share where maybe we didn't fully align, but I thought it was a productive conversation, and almost like laying down our weapons of war, and just to have civil dialogue with each other.
I think that's so important, and it always alludes to that story in the Book of Mormon about the Lamanites burying their weapons.
Anti-Nephites,
yes, exactly.
For peace,
peace, yeah. I think we
can be we can just be very defensive.
Well, that's the Book of Mormon is in many ways a war document, because there's a lot of wars and battles and tensions that are going on. But and this is the key thing, is at the very center of the book, and this was discovered by my good friend Christopher Thomas of Costa Reads the Book of Mormon, that he did. He found out, and nobody ever caught this before, that at the very center of the Book of Mormon, as the anti-Nephi Lehi, that's right, the anti-Nephi Lehis.
Yes, that's right.
I always get that one messed up. It's at the very center. So at the very center of the document, which to textual critics is important, and to literary scholars, is that it's at the very center of the book. So while we have this war document, we at the very center we actually have peace. And I think that maybe that's what we are. Maybe we are the anti-Nephi Lehis. Maybe we are there to bury our weapons and emulate them from the Book of Mormon. And whereas there's wars and battles all around us, we're burying. What do you think?
Yeah, so a war of words and tumult of opinions, as Joseph said in his first vision. Also made me think of in Fourth Nephi, after Jesus visited the Nephites in the Book of Mormon. It talks about how there wasn't any manner of ites, and there wasn't division or contention among the people, because of the love of God that was in their hearts. And if we have, even if you don't believe in God, if we just have love and kindness towards each other, and I think something that you try to do is look for the commonalities and not focus so much on the differences. It can unite people. That doesn't mean we're going to all agree and we're going to see things differently, but we can still be united, and there can be less division and contention. And that's one of my, I love that part of Fourth Nephi, and I feel like that's what Jesus would want. I don't think he would want us to all be divided and fighting against each other.
I actually interviewed James Jones, and I taped the interview a while back. We're going to be posting it soon. There's reasons why we haven't posted it yet, but I had asked him about that. Why is it that the Book of Mormon, here we have this 200-year period of peace and prosperity and all this going on in the Book of Mormon, but yet there's very little written about it. And like, wouldn't it have been nice if we maybe had like chapters devoted to this period of time? And he had said it's like that for a reason, perhaps, that the fact that it's so short tells us so much about our state of the world, that we almost like that 200-year period, you could say, is kind of like a proto-millennium, a period of time that foreshadows the millennium. But because of the state that we are in as man, we're not ready to actually see what that looks like. We're not prepared. We haven't evolved to that point now to know what it's going to be like to be in a millennial setting. What do you say to that?
No, that really that resonates with me, definitely. And yeah, I think it's something that I wish you could see more of it. I've really admired, some of the people in my life who have modeled that, and often it's been actually people who are more critics or who have left the church, who in some ways can be better at modeling that. I have a sister, and we had a conversation on the phone, and she wanted to, we were talking about my channel, we were talking a little about the church, and she just wanted to, out of curiosity, know why I came back, asked me about my faith journey, because it was always sort of like a taboo topic. We just didn't want to discuss it because of her feelings towards the church, and she wanted to understand. And I was like, sure, like it. She was like, I understand now why you believe and where you're at. And it was really nice and I was able to understand where she's at and respect her. And we weren't trying to convince each other, change the other person's mind, but almost listen with love and kindness. And yeah, maybe the whole world can't get to that point, but we can try to do it with each interaction we have. I'm going to give a shout out to Dan Vogel, because in one of our first episodes we did, I have a clip of this that I'm going to put in my video from President Nelson's talk. But he said, which I really appreciate, because Dan, he knows his stuff. Like, he's a good historian. He's a smart guy. Like, he's way smarter than me. And he even said that he doesn't see apologists as enemies. And he says that you should take into account what they're saying. He even said that I sometimes learn from them, and he doesn't see it as like, oh, don't listen to the apologists. And he had, I thought, kind things to say, because oftentimes apologists can just be smeared, and they're mental gymnasts and pseudo scholarship. And if their arguments are good, then I think it's good to address those specifically. But I really appreciated the kind words he had to say, and that's coming from a very respected historian and critic. And I felt like he modeled, to me, at least in our discussions, I found him agreeable and respectful, despite holding to his position. I really appreciated that and admired that from him. And that there, you always feel like that doesn't fit the orthodox view. I shouldn't be, getting almost this character of what Jesus wants to do from this critic, this naturalist.
So
But
later today, I'm going to be interviewing David Boyce of 52 Churches of 52 Weeks, who attended General Conference, just like Jeff McCullough did last year. And he was ready to go, and he actually taped with Saints Unscripted this week. So he's really doing a very similar thing. He by accident just kind of fell into this whole world and is intrigued by the Mormonism and the Restoration and all this kind of stuff. And then we have, Jeff McCullough, of course. And then I also want to point out too, like, I just brought up Christopher Thomas. Christopher Thomas is a Pentecostal, a Dr. Christopher Thomas. He's got 6 degrees, including one from Princeton. I mean, this guy has got the credentials up the wazoo, man. And this is the thing. This is the thing. He is the president. Well, think about it. He is the president of the Book of Mormon Studies Association, the leading scholarly organization for the Book of Mormon. And he also works with the Maxwell Institute. So think of what he's doing in an academic way. He's doing the exact same thing that we're doing. And engaging. And so that's the beautiful thing, is that, on my side, we have some really nasty people that I have named and called out, including Apologia Studios, including James White, including Aaron Shalafaloff, Aaron Shalafaloff, I kind of like him, actually. I feel like I have a soft spot for Aaron. I am critical because he's the kind of person who will do a drive-by post and then just not respond. I've invited him to talk with me. He ignores me. That's fine. I don't care. But these guys and their tactics are not very Christ-like. And I also see very similar things from some corners of these apologetics groups that I don't see a whole lot of Christ operating. And Christ made it really clear, you'll know them by their fruits. And if they feel that all this stuff is appropriate, that they can do, that's not Christ-like at all, I don't see anywhere, and this is the thing. I think this is one of the key things. So Dr. Kyle Bashirs, who was a guest on my program, he was being interviewed by Rick Bennett, and I was there because we were both kind of doing dual interviews at the same time. And he had made the comment was a lot of Christians use the argument, and I've heard this same argument that TBMs have made this too, is, well, Jesus, he went in the temple and he turned over the tables. I'm just turning over tables, to justify their behavior.
And you can interpret some of his passages about, like, I came not to bring peace, but a sword.
And all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, the sheep and the goats.
But Kyle made a great point. He said he did not go to Samaria and turn over their tables. He did it to his own people. And I think that's like very instructive for us to think about, that all these Christians who think they can go, and they can go after Catholics, and they can go after Jehovah's Witnesses, and they can go after Mormons, and they can attack, right? I'm turning over tables. Well, guess what, buddy? We need to turn the tables over in our own churches, because that's the problem. I say the people who need Jesus more than anybody is the evangelical church in America.
It's like when Jesus said, why do you look for the mote in your brother's eye, but consider not the beam in your own eye? And I think often we think that we're right, and we want to try to show and prove to other people why we're right and win the argument and the discussion. I would have been like that as more of a missionary. I wouldn't have thought I would have came across arrogant, but I definitely would have went in there with a closed mind and been like, this is, I'm going to try to convince you, and I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say that might challenge my position. I think if people try to listen more, I think that's it's a better approach. Even though if you're going to hold your position, you don't have to agree with them, but listening and being respectful, I think it's a better way. I think it's the way we need to move.
I think so too. I agree. And as you and I just continue this journey, and we're just talking to different people and stuff like that, and I guess I just have a couple questions for you real quick. What since starting your channel, you started it less than a year ago, and you're closing on 1,500. It took me a year to get to 1,000, so you're outpacing me, dude. So congrats on that. But let me ask you, what's been your biggest surprise since starting your channel?
Ooh, biggest surprise. I think it's definitely been getting some of the guests that I've had on. I've been just so blessed and honored and grateful for some of the people, like some of the scholars that I've been able to get on. Like, I've read their books or listened to them podcasts, and I don't want to say it's been easy, but I've just reached out to them, Facebook, email, and their willingness to come on and have a conversation. And I tell them up front, like, I want to ask these questions, and these aren't softball questions necessarily, but people like Stephen Harper, and let's discuss Joseph Smith's first vision, and let's talk about a lot of things that critics bring up, and I just want to get your take on it. Or Brian Hales and Joseph Smith's polygamy, or Jim Bennett, let's talk about the CES letter. Terrell Gibbons, we talk about scripture, prophets, revelation, and different scholars like Stephen Smoot or Blake Ostler, Brent Gardner in the Book of Mormon. And it's just been so amazing. The fact that they're giving up their time to meet with me earns respect from me. And I feel like I need to. I want them to feel like honored and respected, and the fact they've been willing to come on. And also, I think for the most part, I found a lot of them very, very kind, very thoughtful. They've uh, appreciated the questions I've asked. Perhaps it's maybe the way I've asked them. I've not asked them in an attack-ive way, and I think it's a pity that sometimes certain apologists can attack back at critics for questions they ask when they're actually asking valid questions. It's maybe just the way they're asking them that people don't like. And I think that's been it's been I think one of the most rewarding parts, and I think as well as the relationships I built with people, like you and other creators I've been able to meet with and have connections with. It's been and the fact that people have been impacted by my content or by my faith journey, and it's humbling as well. And yeah, it's just been an amazing journey. And although I don't know if I felt like God specifically called me to do this, it was more like I felt called, but I feel like he's at least approving of what I'm doing, and I feel like it's a good endeavor, and I think it's brought in a lot of good fruits into my life. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think you and I are in similar paths. Oh, and I did have another question for you. So I've been invited to speak at Sunstone UK this fall. Don't have all the details meshed out yet. I don't even think everything's 100% put together yet. So, but I've been invited. So
yeah.
it's my intention to fly out, and I got to get a passport. I got to get all this stuff lined up real quick. By the way, I think I'm going to start a GoFundMe page to help pay for my trip. And if you just want to pay for a one-way trip, so I stay there forever and don't come back to stateside, that's fine too. I don't care. That's for my critics. But I'm going to maybe start a GoFundMe page later this summer to help pay for my trip, because it's going to cost, and I'm still a small channel. I'm not, making a whole lot of money here. But if I'm making a trip to the United Kingdom to speak at Sunstone, let me ask you, Murph, are you gonna make your way there to come
Oh,
see?
heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'm gonna be there. Ferry across, driving all the way down, or I'll just fly across. Oh yeah. I I've been invited as well, and I'd love to go to Sunstone UK, but definitely if you're there, I'll be there.
Okay, so you're gonna be speaking at Sunstone UK too?
No, not speaking, but I was invited to attend. I
Okay,
hope not speaking.
okay,
I think I was just invited to attend.
okay. Well, that's great. Well, we'll make sure that so those of you who are interested in attending Sunstone United Kingdom this year, look for me and the Murph. That should be fun. I've never been to the United Kingdom, so I'd like to check that out.
Oh,
Yeah, actually,
maybe do we trip to Ireland when you go there?
yeah, I know Ireland. I'd love to go to I'd love to get to the Netherlands and visit the town of Pine Acre, my namesake. There's a Pine Acre.
Yes.
Yeah, and
See Amsterdam, because my wife went on a holiday to Europe a couple of years back, and she went to different cities, and Amsterdam was, I think, one of her top favorites.
oh wow,
She that
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's very interesting. So who knows? Maybe I'll make it out there. I don't know. We'll see where the Lord's hand is on this endeavor. Now, before we wrap this up, I just want to know because this is going to be this conversation. By the way, we are just totally riffing. I think already I know the name
yeah.
of the episode is um, Steve and Steve or whatever answer their critics or take on their critics or something like that, because that's what it became. It wasn't meant to be, but the conversation kind of went that direction. But I was just wondering, did you have any questions or comments for me that you might maybe wanted to address in this episode as well?
Yeah, just like how like what has been sort of the best things that have happened in the past 6 months, or with your channel, any guests or specific episodes, or what you feel has been most rewarding, or what you feel like you've learned the most, either intellectually or what you've gained spiritually over the past 6 months or years since last spoken.
I think what's so interesting to me is that, what is on my show is just the tip of the iceberg. What happens off camera, and also people who will never be on camera. The excuse me, the Zoom calls I do with people, the conversations. Sometimes it's a counseling session. Sometimes it's a historian who's giving me their presentation for Mormon History Association. I'm privy to so much information that my channel's become a clearinghouse of information in the scholarly world and other places as well. So that's been really fascinating. But I think the key thing is really, as I tell people, when I first started this whole thing, it was really meant to be a scholarly, secular channel. But before I even started the channel, the spirit also, so it's the three S's, right? Scholarly, secular, but also spiritual. It's become
Yeah.
that too. So, and I even had members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, more than just one person, but multiple people tell me, I watch your channel because at any minute the Holy Ghost may show up. Think about that.
Wow.
So for some people, they say this is my church service. I'm like, okay, what it is, that's if you're getting some spiritual nourishment from this thing, that's the biggest surprise. And then going to
Yeah.
Sunstone and really meeting a lot of people at Sunstone last year. When I think how much bigger my channel is now, I can't imagine what it's going to be like this year. But the amount of people who came up to me and just were so appreciative of how much this channel and the conversations and my story being told on Mormon Stories and my personal faith journey, how it's really helped them spiritually as well. So that's the thing, and then to hear things that I said repeated back to me from other people. Maybe it was just something I said off the cuff, and they're repeating it back like it really affected them and meant something to them. It became like a life principle that they've integrated into their life, right? That's actually helped them with their spiritual journey wherever they're at.
Yeah.
That's been a real eye-opening thing too. And then just like then we're working on this book deal that I'm getting. That's pretty wild to think about. And then just
You
all
plan to
these,
write a book?
yeah, I've been, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
Have you thought of a title yet, or can you
actually
share us the
the
title?
publisher already kind of gave me a proto a title, a working title that we're working on. And honestly, I've never written a book before, but this person went and told me, she said, well, 80% of your book's already been written, because all we need to do is take the manuscript from your Mormon Stories and also interviews like you did with me, these long form interviews that I did.
Yeah, yeah.
Just take the text of those and then edit them and then add some more to it that I would write. So I thought, oh,
Mm.
okay, that's useful as well.
That make it easier.
Yeah, make it easier. And so because like I said, but this is a legit major, highly regarded publisher in the Mormon studies world, and it's really cool to just even have something like that, and then just the when I went to Mormon History Association 2 years ago, nobody knew who I was. The first night I'm there I'm just this guy with a ball cap and t-shirts and the blue jeans, and he's talking to Dr. Richard Bushman, who's wearing a suit and he's dressed to the nines, and I just say, I give him my card, and Claudia, his wife, pointed out that on my business card had a photograph of some of the books on my bookshelf, and she said, "Look, there's two of your books are on his bookshelf." And it was kind of
Yeah.
funny that she pointed that out. And I said, yeah, that's from my bookshelf. And we just talked for like 10 minutes. And I remember precisely, I had 106 subscribers that day. That's how many. I got my 106 subscribers. So I just crossed over 100 after like 3 months of doing my channel, right? And he said, yeah, I'll come on. And no, and then I just kind of introduced myself to people at Mormon History. Nobody knew who I was. I go to Mormon History Association this year. I go to John Whitmer Association, or this past year. And I would walk up to somebody. I remember particularly, I was walking up to Christopher Blythe. I'm like, and I remember because I was like, oh yeah, I saw your interview on Gospel Tangents. And so I knew who he was. I know almost all these scholars because of all the different podcasts and YouTube channels that I watch.
Yeah.
And I'm walking up to him and say, oh yeah, I know who you are. I watch your stuff. I'm like, really? Christopher Blythe? Well, then just a few weeks ago, he reaches out to me and said, hey, I got this new book on different scriptures in the LDS tradition. Would you have me on? I'm like, dude, yeah, send me the book. Next thing you know, I have 5 scholars on my program, some of the leading scholars of Mormonism on the program. And it was so cool. And so now it's what's
Yeah.
come is now I don't have to introduce myself to anybody because everybody knows who I am now. And I'm not saying
And
this is
that
bragging
you're
about it. It's just
neutral,
crazy to think
you're a
that
neutral platform.
it's a neutral platform. They like what I'm doing. I think people are often shocked when I interview them. They're often shocked at the responses they get because they're like, I can't believe so-and-so watched my interview. I had somebody tell me, I've heard from people that I haven't seen in 50 years who've reached out to me seeing your interview. And so it's like, wow, that's pretty wild just to have that kind of access to people, and I don't have to introduce myself anymore to anybody. And so now I tell people that if you're an author and you want to come on my program, and by the way, there's many I need to get back with, and I will promise you that there's many people that I've been in touch with for like a year and a half that I want to get you on the program. And I would also say, for those of you who are authors and scholars who've had conversations with me in the past and you haven't heard from me for a while, just reach out to me, because honestly, the persistent people who just keep on badgering me are the ones that end up getting on my program. I say,
Yeah, persistence is key.
Yeah, it is. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what it, and this is the other thing too, is like, so you podcasters out there, I remember, just because you're small, don't feel intimidated to approach me,
No.
or the Murph, right? Because I want to also continue, like I help Murph. I saw you. I saw that you had potential. I saw that you're booking some really top line guests, and I saw that you're having really good conversations and good interviews with people. And I was like, I want to help this guy, and this is what it's all about. And this is funny. I mean, I've literally tried reaching out to some people and been rebuffed. I'm like, I really want, and they're in their podcasts, and they just kind of do their thing, but they're just not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
and because they think they know, like they got it all figured out and they're doing their thing. And these are people that are languishing in the hundreds for like over a year, and I'm like, what are you even doing? And I mean,
I
if you
think
do what you want to do, that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, I want to help people too, with my MMR segments, where I have podcasters come on to introduce themselves. Some of them are post-Mormons, some are very conservative Mormons, some, some are atheists. I'm going to have a major Buddhist come on my program.
yeah,
And
it's amazing the diversity of guests. I think your channel of all is probably the biggest diversity of guests on all sides of the spectrum, different religions. It's amazing the guests you get on,
and,
and the quality of interviews as well. And there's so many new channel. I think people. I always feel like, man, there's too many new really good channels or podcasts starting up that Steve's promoting. I'm like, how am I going to watch them all? But it's amazing because it's kind of a labor of love that you're trying to help, yeah, kickstart these channels. Like it's a really kind and admirable thing, and it's great, all the guests that you bring on.
yeah, and I would say that my guests, the diversity of my guests is very reflective of my audience as well. Earlier this year, I ran a poll, like asking people, what is your religious background? Like, are you a theist, a non-theist, an atheist, agnostic, a deist, other, whatever? What is your, and a third of my audience says they were atheist agnostic. Think about that.
Interesting.
It's an evangelical Mormon podcast.
Yeah.
And a third of my audience is atheist agnostic. And then, of
Yeah.
course, like having Aaron Ra, who's like one of the biggest atheists on YouTube, coming on my program. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody, right? And but the audience, it's a safe space. And so that's the other thing too, is really how diverse my audience has gotten. And I will say that for the first year and a half of my channel, my audience was probably more of like a Mormon Stories audience. But then at the end
Mm.
of last year, I started looking at the analytics of what other channels people are watching, and my audience has shifted away from more of a post-Mormon audience to now a more true blue Mormon audience. So, but it's still large segments of both groups obviously are watching it, but it's shifting.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point now where true blue Mormons feel comfortable watching my program. And then going on Saints Unscripted, that's a big deal, because that's
Mhm.
kind of
Shows that you're a friendly face.
friendly face to the church. This was definitely a nod to the audience that, hey, Steve's okay, you know.
And kudos to them for interviewing you and promoting your YouTube channel as well. Like I think that's a great thing that they're doing as
Yeah,
well.
I think so, and that's why I want to sing my praises to anybody who wants to contribute to the dialogue, to anybody who wants to have civil discussions. This is so important in this time period that we're in. I could, and there's an alternative universe in which there's an atheist Steve Pinecker who's doing Mormon book reviews, but it's a completely different channel, and it's but in an alternative universe there probably is, or there's another alternative universe where I'm still right-wing Calvinist Steve Pinecker doing Mormon book reviews. And that's a completely different channel. That's a proselytizing channel. That's me going bashing, which, by the way, the atheist and the Calvinist channels would be very similar, I might add,
Yeah.
their tone. And so now it's like, and again, I love Calvinists. I think hyper Calvinists take things too far. I love atheists. I tell atheists that I'm a pro I'm an evangelical, a pro-atheist evangelical. I told that to Aaron Ra, and he's like, when we did an intake, he's like, what's going on? This guy's different. And he goes and promotes my channel. He goes and promotes my interviews. He feels like a major atheist. He's on the board of the Atheist Association. I mean, he's like, I want people to check out Steve's channel. So, and that's
Yeah.
the other thing too, is I actually feel like the Lord showed me a few things recently. One, he showed me I need to start interacting more with atheists. So my hope is to go on more atheist programs as a Christian, and then come on atheist programs and just be, and not get into arguments or disputations or anything like
Yeah.
that, just to have civil dialogue with atheists. And then the second thing the Lord showed me was I need to start reaching out to youth. So when the whole Saints Unscripted thing happened, it got my wheels turning, and I'm sitting there watching my Roku, and I see on here some evangelical teens interviewing a Mormon. They talk about Mormonism or whatever. It was about Mormonism. I thought, oh, I guess God wants me to talk to evangelical teens too. So I reach out to the Fire Starters for Jesus YouTube channel, and they're just this little channel based in Colorado of these young people that started this channel. Lucas is the guy who started it, and Lucas actually just turned 20, so he's no longer a teen. But I said, I'm going on this show called Saints Unscripted, which is probably the largest YouTube channel for LDS youth. And I said, and I want my interview with you guys, greeting them when they come and watch Saints Unscripted and they come over to my channel. Because I said, you know what? I want us to skip over all the older generations and all their tactics and all the nastiness and all the stuff that we've been doing. And I want evangelical youth and LDS youth to talk directly to each other.
Yeah.
Because I
It
feel
needs to
there's
happen.
hope there to do that. So that was the whole point of that, was getting these evangelical young people on board with talking with younger LDS people, because I think that's the key thing. I'm literally doing this because I want them to talk to each other. And then I have what's become now is this has evolved into something where I have the 3 questions. And actually, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you the 3 questions. So evangelicals come to me and they're like, okay, Steve, you're doing something different. You're taking this approach of dialoguing in a way that's different than what most evangelicals are doing, because I'm not trying to proselytize. I'm just trying to be a conversation starter. And so these evangelicals go to me and they say, how should I approach Mormons, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? And I say, okay, you need to ask them 3 questions. So I'm going to ask you, Mormonism with the Murph, the 3 questions. Are you ready, sir?
Okay, bring it.
All right. Number 1, what is your favorite Book of Mormon story?
That's a tough one. Okay, I'm gonna think off the top of my head. I do like the story of Abinadi going before King Noah and the priests, and him just boldly testifying, and just his fearlessness and his faith, and his obedience. And I used to call him like a honey badger, because he just only kind of like rebuked them, and didn't shrink under even for going to death. So yeah, Abinadi. I love the story of Abinadi. I love the story of Nephi as well, and then going to get the brass plates, and everything with Laman and Lemuel. I actually really like Laman and Lemuel, which is I kind of resonate more with them than I do Nephi, because I feel like I'd be the one complaining and murmuring and be like, Nephi, shut up! Like you just think you're so righteous and good. But yeah, probably Abinadi is one of my favorite stories. I'm rereading it again through the Book of Mormon as I'm doing my series on the Book of Mormon on my channel, because it's been a couple of years since I've read it. So it's been nice just reading through, the stories again and the narrative. There's so many things that you forget, and yeah, I love the Book of Mormon. So it's hard to pick one, but I do like the story of Abinadi and Nephi and Laman and Lemuel.
Okay, so that's question number 1. Question number 2, what is your favorite Bible story?
Oh, okay, that's a good one. It can be Old Testament or New Testament.
Yeah, because
I
remember,
think the
Paul
Bible.
says we have to have a ready answer. So, just you got to have a ready answer, man.
I
Just
I really like I like when Jesus and his disciples are when they're on the boat, and the storm's happening, and they're just panicking, and they're like, Master, you don't care that we're suffering here. And Jesus is sleeping, and then when he awakes, he just sort of calms it. And one of the things I like about that story is I feel like the applications to life. There can be times where like storms come, trials seem to come, and it seems like everything is just going wrong in your life, and you're like, God, where the hell are you? Like, and he's probably just like, I'm taking a nap, and then your faith is really tested, and you're panicking, and you feel fearful, and then as you call out to God, that often He can calm the storm, that the problem can get fixed, and calm and peace can come. And there's so many other, New Testament stories and Old Testament stories that I love, but that's one that sprung to mind, which I really like.
Okay, question number 3. What is your favorite story in the book of Jeranek? All right, Matthew Gill, I did that for you. You'll be visiting us in Orlando soon this year, so I got a Book of Jeranek reference in there. Our friend who found those plates that gives the history of the builders of Stonehenge. Matthew Gill, of the president of his church. A shout out to you. Actually, this is the 3rd question. Okay.
Okay.
that would definitely caught you off guard.
Yes, I was just like, is that the sealed portion?
So the 3rd question is, who is Jesus to you?
Well, that's a good question. I think I talked about this a little bit in our first interview. Um, a lot of this comes from experiences and the trial I went through as a young man, and that was when I felt like the closest to Jesus that I ever felt. I've studied, the Bible, the Book of Mormon. I feel like I know a lot about Jesus, but it was during that time where I felt like really came to know him. And to me, I see Jesus as like my best friend who loves me, who didn't just suffer and die to atone for my sins or overcome death, but that he took upon him every suffering and pain that I go through, so that he could have compassion and love and full empathy for me, and that he's sort of like he's my hero, and he wants me to succeed. And even though I screw up a lot, and I'm selfish, and I'm sinful, and I do things wrong, and I doubt, and I murmur, I feel like he's quick to forgive and to help me. And I believe that so much that's good in my life comes from trying to follow him and emulate him. So yeah, I see him as my best friend, my savior, and I love his teachings. I love his words, and I'm striving to try to follow him.
So we're taping this during Holy Week, and it's really cool to see that the church is starting to embrace Easter in a way that's more similar to the rest of the Christian world.
Yeah.
My mom just got me this cross recently. I also like that the cross is becoming less of a taboo symbol within the
Yes.
Church of Jesus Christ of
There
Latter-day
was so much emphasis, I think, to try to differentiate us from the other, Christian churches and the rest of the Christian world. And I think now there's being more of an effort to try not to be as divided, but to come together in commonality, and to see the good in Christian churches and learn from their beliefs and their practices and their faith as well.
Yeah, I think these are all positive steps in the right direction. I feel like our channels are kind of reflecting the zeitgeist of the moment, just kind of where we're seeing this transition, this world, these things happening in a very good positive direction. I think the
Yeah.
old ways of doing things on both sides have been counterproductive. I think that this approach is going to be much more fruitful than what we've seen for the last 200 years of evangelical and Latter-day Saint interactions. Mormonism with the Murph. Thanks for coming on the program today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. No, I'm grateful for our friendship, our relationship, and be able to have great discussions and dialogue. And you're a great guy, genuine guy, and appreciate the work you do.
I love all of you. And for those of you that, I was kind of going after you, I do my criticisms and critiques. Really, I try to do it in a place of love, in a loving way. I don't engage in personal insults or attacks, because we're all image bearers. And so for me to attack and malign and to lie about people, that's not Christ. That's the enemy. And so I feel like we need to emulate Christ in our endeavors. And so this goes for Christian apologists, those who are apologists for the restoration. Make sure that Jesus is at the center of your endeavor. And if he's not, then you need to look in the mirror and repent. I just want to remind all of you that this month's book drawing is Battlefields, Temple Grounds, Latter-day Saints in Guam and Micronesia, edited by my good friend Devin Jensen, who showed up to a last-minute meetup in Provo for the last day of my time in Utah. And I said, you give me 2 copies, I'll make sure that I have a book contest. So in the description, I will have my email, mormonbookreviews@gmail.com. And when you send out the email, make sure in the subject line you say book contest and give your name and address. Sorry, Stephen, U.S. residents only. And this will be April 15th or April 31st will be the deadline. So I'll let you guys all know ahead of time. So just make sure you get your entries in ASAP. I also want to remind you that we do have a merch store, mormonbookreviews.com. You can get hats, mugs, all there. And this is hot chocolate mugs. This is not coffee mugs, just so you know. Or they can they can also double as a coffee mug, just so you know too. And so we have the merch store also.
Multifunctional.
Yes, multifunctional. That's right. Multifaceted, multifunctional. That's just much like this channel is. And then for those of you who'd like to financially support the channel, there are links in the description where you can support us financially via Patreon and PayPal. And I just want to thank all of you who are financially supporting the channel. Also, just watch the commercials now and then on YouTube because I get monetization on that. And my mom watches every commercial. I'm like, Mom, you don't have to watch every commercial, but she does. And so I want to thank also just everybody. And I think the most important thing is really, folks, this is the most important thing. And remember this, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.